Hi guys. So because of the shaky video right before I left for vacation, I'm going to redo the cards for the Hero Arts August kit with the coffee theme. Could let you guys all get a chance to look at them without any shaking. I also did finish up the cards, so I have 10 cards, actually 11 cards to show you, and I'll explain that in a minute. And I'm so sorry that I did not post a video sooner. I promised you guys when I put up that beach video that I would be posting one later that night or the next morning. But my daughter had a infected swimmer's ear from spending that week in the water park on vacation. So we were dealing with that and an emergency room visit and getting her back to health for school because school started today. So on to the 10 cards. I don't remember what order I did them in last time, so I'm just kind of winging it here. On this first card, I used the to-go cup, and I think it was like a 2 1/4 inch strip of watercolor paper. No, Bristol Smooth with some Arteza water brush markers. And just put some, I think it was ginger was the color scheme in the backgrounds, and I stamped those flat, but I cut the lids out and glued them on. This one I popped up, and instead of putting a to-go top on it, I stamped out one of the whipped creams in Barely Beige ink and spritzed some nutmeg, quote unquote, as I like to think of it, or it's 'tis the season, pumpkin spice, onto the whipped cream. Then I covered it in the lacquer pen, and I'm drawing a blank here, guys, because it's been over a week. I used some of the steam expressions, or at least that's what I think they are. They'd look cute under some of the sentiments too, but in this case, I stamped them out and put some black sparkle Ranger embossing powder on them. And all of these were colored with the Arteza Real Brush pens. And I also used those coffee design stamps and the heart stamp to decorate my to-go cups. I put Sending You a Latte Love, and I also embossed that with the black sparkle Ranger embossing powder. And the background to this card is actually that piece that the stamps and the dies came on in the kit with the coffee foam. So that is card number 1. Card number 2, I used my wonky stitch die to cut out a piece of ivory cardstock. The background of this card is just a piece of, or the mat for this card, it's like a tan, I don't know, it's not a print, but it's not a solid color. Let me see if I got a piece handy. I'm not seeing it offhand, guys. I don't want to make you wait forever. Anyway, it was in the stash that came from my grandmother's house, and it adds a nice little edge between the craft card base and the ivory cardstock. And then I used my Distress inks, I think tea dye, frayed burlap, and maybe gathered twigs or vintage photo to make these coffee rings. And I actually used my mini Wow embossing powder bottom to do that. I inked it out on my glass media mat, squirted some water on it, put the embossing powder bottle in there, and then inked it onto the paper. After that was dry, I used all the little sentiments in that set and heat embossed them in the Nuvo hot chocolate embossing powder. And then these 2 little circles I cut out of my Sizzix dies, circle dies, scallop circle dies. Used a piece of that tea dye paper. The circles popped up, and these 2 pieces are kind of like, they remind me of corduroy or cardboard. This was a paper I also found in my grandmother's stash at her house. And I just cut cut out with this tiny little mug here and use my Arteza. I used my Arteza Real Brush Pens a lot for these cards. Colored it in, used some of the ribbon that came tied around the kit and tied a bow. And I used London Fog to stamp out a couple of steam lines there. And then I just used a brown piece of, I think it was almond basil cardstock that I got from Joann's on sale, and put Life Begins After Coffee. And that was it for card number 2. And card number 3, I remember telling you guys, I thought it looked like stacked up dirty cups with leftover whipped cream and whatnot, and foam, coffee foam, latte foam. Some people in my house seem to think this is dish bubbles, soap bubbles from washing them. Either way, it still looks cute. Colored them a whole bunch of different colors. Cut them all, fussy cutted them all out. Cut slits into the tops of them so I could tuck the cups in every which way. And put 3 sentiments on: We're the Perfect Blend, Cup of Joy, Espresso Yourself, and of course the foam and whipped cream slash soap bubbles, as we're going to call them. I used the White Puff Heat Embossing Powder that came in the kit. I also popped this whole thing up on my foam tape, 2 layers because my foam tape is thin. And this paper also came in a little 4x6 pad that came from my grandmother's house. We went through her craft stash and split the stuff up. The background has the tea-dyed paper that came in this kit, and it says World's Best Friend. And then I used just whatever shaker bits I had that I thought would match. There's some leftover moonstone confetti sequins in there from a previous Simon Says stamp kit. There's some tan ones that came in an ocean-related sequin set that I just picked up at AC Moore's by Love Nicole. There's some clear crystal seed beads. You name it, it's in there. And I like the way this one turned out. It's one of my favorites. And it's on a craft card base. Card number 4. I used, before I got the kit, or right before I started the kit, I used all the coffee colors I had in alcohol ink and a couple pieces of gloss cardstock, and used it for backgrounds. I basically just messed around with the alcohol ink so I could use what I made for backgrounds for these cards. So I cut out 2 thin strips to separate this paper, which I think is about, let me measure it. This one that I printed the cups on is 2 3/4 by, it looks like 5 1/4. Hold on, I've got this, doesn't quite fit all the way across. Like 5 1/8 long. I used, oh my god, I can't talk today, guys. It's getting late, that's why. And I got 2 hours of sleep before I woke up to get the kids ready for the first day of school. I stamped this guy out first, masked them off, and stamped these 2. Added the straw to this drink right here, colored them. These ones I think I colored with Copics. I did, or not Copics, I'm sorry, Spectrum Noir. So these were colored with Spectrum Noir. I just used the long skinny sentiments from the kit to stamp over and over in different coffee colors, brown colors. Like I said, I used the alcohol ink paper and cut 2 thin strips to separate it. Give it some dimension on the card because everything's flat except for that sentiment. And this pretty glitter paper, I think I remember telling you guys this in the shaky video, that happened to fall out of one of the little 4x6 cardstock packs that I picked up from my grandmother's house, and it was really pretty and it was perfect for this kit. So I cut those out and put those on the edges. I mean, there's literally like a 1/16 of an inch on the edge, showing on the edge of this card base, and it's a white card base. I forgot to put my initials on my cards too, guys. Then I stamped out Coffee's Always a Good Idea and heat embossed it, and that was in Dough Lawn Fawn ink. And then I used clear embossing powder on it, and there's another piece of that alcohol ink paper behind that, and that's popped up on foam tape. And that's it for card number 4. I'm trying to book through this, guys, because there's going to be a giveaway tonight. Card number 5, I used a piece of watercolor paper. My normal watercolor paper is Strathmore. I used a whole bunch of like pearlescent browns in my watercolors. Here, I'm grabbing it now to show you guys. I have picked this up, I think it was at Joann's, and it's Yasutomo, if I'm saying that correctly, and they're like metallic pearlescent watercolors. So I used the browns and tans and creams in there and just messed around on a piece of watercolor paper. I also added some regular browns from my Koi watercolor set. I love this thing. It's a little nifty and messy, as you can see. So I put some browns and some of the white from there and just messed around, swipes, swirls, stripes. I let it dry, and it took me a couple cards to figure out how I was gonna use that. And I ended up using a Darice embossing folder to make this little brick square-like pattern. And then I used my grandmother's antique paper cutter to make these rough edges. And that's popped up on a piece of Fun Foam. Then I colored all these guys with Arteza Real Brush pens, cut them out. I don't think I really used the dies for these coffee cups that came with the kit that often. I think maybe I used them twice. Everything else was fussy cutting because normally, unless it ties into my card, I'm not a lover of the white rim around that a die leaves around an item. So as much as I dislike fussy cutting because I'm horrible at it, I usually end up doing it if there's going to be a large white rim around my item. I used more of the ribbon that came tied around the kit. I tied that around before I popped up, and this one's glued straight down. These two are popped up on foam squares, and this little guy's got a bow. I cut out 2 pieces of steam, and those were both stamped with the London Fog and Memento London Fog ink, and I think I mixed it in with the Hippo Lawn Fawn ink before I cut them out. I did whipped cream on these two, and that's got lacquer. I did some dots of sprinkles like nutmegs, pumpkin spice, guys, pumpkin spice. And then I covered that with the lacquer pen as well. These are also covered with the lacquer pen. This was another case of I used Barely Beige to stamp these whipped creams out. I didn't want to see black defined edges on these. I also took another piece of the watercolor paper, this one right here, to make the banner, but I did not use the embossing folder on it. And then it says, "You're the cream in my coffee." And let me get those other cards real quick, guys, because I have a feeling that I did not show you close-ups before I took them off the board. So here's card number 2 really quick. And card number 3. And my brain's just not thinking straight today. Card number 4. I just showed you card 5. So card 6, I'll do the close-up now so I don't forget. I kind of used the fancy window die is what I used, that alcohol ink paper. This was the first thing I cut out of it. Everything else that I used on the cards that came from this paper, this alcohol ink paper that I created, was scraps and pieces off the original one. And I didn't want to really make it into the actual coffee scene. I just wanted it to be more like a background, something that was just there. I didn't want to make it too detailed, so I just used a simple piece of the tea-dyed paper, coffee-dyed paper that came in the kit, cut it with that antique paper cutter. I rounded the corners on the top of this one because I noticed that I had cut it too thin and I didn't have a lot of a border on it, and just left that one square. And then I made another to-go cup. I colored this with Copic markers and just regular brown colors, stamped but first coffee on it, and put lacquer, a square, you know, I wanted it to look like a label. So I used a lacquer pen and made a square around it. But I have to say, as much as I like the way that alcohol ink paper came out with all those pretty coffee colors, this is probably my least favorite card out of everything I've made for this kit. And I had a lot of fun with this kit. It was exciting to come home and know that I was gonna make another 3 cards out of it. I don't have a coffee stamp set. I don't drink coffee. But it was really fun to make them, and it's nice to have a coffee set. I know a lot of people drink coffee. I think I'm the only one I know that doesn't drink coffee. So this is card number 6. Now, I think that was all that you guys saw before I left. So now we're on to card number 7. I was starting to get a little tired of the browns. Brown, brown, brown. As pretty as they were, I wanted to do something different. There's a bug on me, guys. Alright, so I made a distressed oxide ink background, and I did it right onto my card base, and I just did it in rainbow colors, and it wasn't perfect. The lines go every which way. I'm kind of sad that you can't see more of it. I sprayed a little bit of that sea foam spray that came in the ocean kit this summer onto the base. And like I said, I wish you could see more of it, but it wasn't in the cards for what I had planned afterwards. Now this piece with I stamped all of those out with Versamark, embossed them with clear embossing powder, used my Arteza Real Brush pens to color them all in. And then I just used my ice blue, I think it was, Arteza Real Brush pen to go around them just as a highlight. Now that panel was done before I left for vacation. That was the one I was telling you guys I didn't have time to finish. And I didn't have time to finish it because I wasn't sure what I was going to do with it. So this is what I did with it. And I took a regular piece of blue cardstock. This is something I also got at Joann's when paper was on sale. I don't remember the color, and I decided to cut a chunk out of this and kind of make it on a diagonal, and then I put "Sending You a Latte Love" with 3 hearts on each side, and I think it turned out pretty cute for a coffee card that is multicolored. But this is it's a piece of cardstock that I got from Joann's, but as you could tell, I did so much stamping and everything, or inking and blending. I don't know if it leaked through my paper, my cardstock, or if that was from my desk when I was blending, but I don't like that. So if I use this card to give to somebody, I would never sell it like this. But if I give it to somebody, I'll end up putting a piece of cardstock in there to cover that up. So that's card number 7? 7, guys. It's 7. I'm a little crazy today. Card number 8, I actually got the idea for this card driving home from Cocoa Beach. I made a panel with Distress Oxide inks, except for the tea dye. I do not have tea dye in Distress Oxide, so I used my regular Distress inks, and I kind of blended them all together, cut a panel out with my wonky stitch die. I mean, I can't remember the measurements on these guys. I'm so tired right now. But you can tell it's not very small. I think it was the biggest wonky die that came in the set that I got from Simon Says Stamp. I put a piece of red cardstock behind there to mat it. I thought it looked too stark on the white cardstock. And then I basically drew a circle. I actually used, where is it, guys? My scrapbook.com tape. I trace a circle on my Bristol Smooth cardstock, Spectrum Noir cardstock, because I used Spectrum Noir markers. And then I did a lot of masking to turn these cups every which way. I spaced 4 out to begin with. I think it was this one, this one, this one, and this one, to make sure that there was at least 4 cups where you could see the whole cup, that they weren't all buried one behind the other. And then I basically masked them off 2 at a time to fill in the cups that were in between. After that, I colored them all in the way I wanted, and I wanted very muted colors for this. After doing the rainbow card, I still wanted color, but I didn't want bright rainbow colors. And I liked the way it turned out. And then I stamped a whole bunch of those hearts that came in the kit, colored them in. Yes, guys, I fussy cutted them out, and then I marker edged with black marker every single heart so you couldn't see how horrible my cutting was. After placing them on here with my 2A glue pen, I went over them with the lacquer pen. I also went over the liquid in each cup with the lacquer pen, tied a little bow on there and stuck it on. Now, the background is on Fun Foam, and then I also popped the wreath up with dimensional squares. I took a little tiny piece of that tea-dyed paper for my sentiment and just glued it straight down to the background that says "Love You More Than Coffee." And then I stamped out 6 of those steams and did them, of course, in Memento London Fog and Lawn Fawn Hippo. Edged them, cut them out, fussy cutted them out, glued them straight to the base. And I really do, this is one of my favorite cards in the kit. I love the way it turned out. So then we have card number 9. It was back to wanting to do something different, wanting to do color. So this is what I came up with. I ended up taking a ivory card base, and I used a pink piece of purple shimmer cardstock. This actually came in the Hero Arts Valentine's Day kit, or Valentine's kit. I used my Lawn Fawn rectangle stitch die to cut that out. Then I cut out a piece of, I think this was just Nina 80-pound Solar Crest. Stamped a whole bunch of the hearts, colored them in with my gel pens. I used gel pens on the hearts, all my pretty glittery gel pens. And then I covered each heart with the lacquer pen, and I like that. At first I was thinking I wanted a flat background, but it's popped up on foam tape, and I lacquered the hearts, guys. And they look so, so cute. World's Best Friend. I also wanted the to-go cups to look like we picked them up from a Starbucks or something similar, where they handwrite your name on the cup. Except to tie in with the sentiment, World's Best Friend, I wanted stuff that went with that. So I have Bestie, Chickie, and Number 1. I knew I wanted to cut them out of where I stamped them. I stamped this guy first. Actually, I stamped the whipped cream first. Then I stamped the top. Then I stamped the cup. Then I masked that whole thing off to stamp these guys. And it's the same order. The tops and then the cups. I drew these in just using one of my embossing powder containers and lined it up where I wanted it. And then I did the same thing with a bowl, a Tupperware bowl, to get this, so I could cut that out. I colored these in with my Spectrum Noir markers, and this is popped up on foam tape, and this is popped up on foam tape, but I used foam squares on the edges because they were sticking up a little bit more. They needed a little bit more dimension than what was here. And this also, that panel with the hearts was cut out with the next size down of the rectangle stitch die from Lawn Fawn. And that's it for card number 10, or 9. 9, guys. Repeating myself, not knowing how to count, can't speak. What is wrong with me? Okay, card number 10. I thought I would give the fancy window die another try. And this is what we came up with. So first I cut it out of I took the almost last, I think I have one more small piece left, the coffee dyed paper. I attached it to a sheet of adhesive, double-sided adhesive. Then I cut it out with the fancy window dye. Underneath that, before I taped it to the card base, or yeah, adhered it to the card base, I put a piece of this. I don't know if you can see it. It's like a white satin, white pearl cardstock, and it came just in this little booklet I got from Joann's one day. This Metallics cardstock stack. That's where it came from. You can pick it up at Joann's. And that's behind there, but you can really only see it on the bottom behind the chairs and table, and I'll show you guys in a minute. Then I took a piece of brown cardstock to kind of make this like a brown looking chalkboard. I took the paper that came with the stamps and dies attached. The other side was marble, if you guys remember, with a coffee cup that you could look down on from the top, overhead view. I used that side to cut out all these little edges and glued those. I paper pieced those back in, glued them in. And then I used the rest of my alcohol ink paper that I did to cut out all these little guys and paper piece those in. And then I decided, instead of leaving that as background stuff, I would color it and make it an actual scene. I mean, my vases are a little crooked. No matter what I did, I was running off of the paper because there's an edge there, because there's adhesive on the back of it. So I did the best I could. Other than that, I don't think I did half bad. Then I wrote cafe in the sign, covered it with the lacquer pen, and then I used my superfine opaque ultra white wow embossing powder to do a cup of joy, take a break, give it a shot. And that's it for card number 10. If there's anything you guys think I forget when I'm explaining these cards and you want to know about something, please feel free to ask me in the comments, because I'm sure I'm not remembering everything. And now I told you I would explain the bonus. Card number 11, bonus. I got done with the 10 cards and realized that there was one stamp that I never even touched, and that would be the overhead looking down stamp, where you could put all those neat little decorations in and take advantage of the white puff embossing powder. So I just had to do one. It turned out simple, which is what I wanted, but I wanted to at least say that I used all those coffee cups and I used all those decorations. So this is what we came up with. I used a piece of my watercolor, Strathmore watercolor paper, and I stamped out all those cups, and I heat embossed them with the Hot Cocoa Nouveau embossing powder. And then I used tea dye, ground espresso, and antique linen to color the various parts of the cups and the insides. Then I used a combination of, then I also added Rusty Hinge to add into the ground espresso to do the plates that the cups were sitting on. Then I stamped out all the designs, covered them with the white puff embossing powder, popped it up on foam tape, wrapped what I had left of the ribbon, which was tricky because I didn't have a lot left, so I kind of had to fold it over and stick it to the tape on the underside, and then use a small piece of ribbon like that big to tie a bow, just a simple knot to make it look like a bow, because I used all that ribbon, people, all of it. That's like the first time I've ever done that with a kit, used all the ribbon. And then I used a piece of that white pearl, white satiny paper that I used on the last card, made a fishtail banner, stamped out "You're the cream of my coffee" with the L'Enfant d'Eau ink, covered it with clear embossing powder, and then I used my brand new Nouveau drops, the Golden Sunset, to just decorate all around the card. There's no rhyme or reason. The one thing I do not like about Nouveau embossing powder is no matter how many times you use your powder tool, no matter what powder tool you have, no matter how many times you shake it off, tap it, use a paintbrush, there's always going to be some color that sticks somewhere on your card. So some of these were simply just to cover up some really bad brown spots from the embossing powder. And then I had to add more to even it out, but I think it turned out really cute. especially for a last minute, I just want to make sure I use these stamps type of card. And that's it, guys. 11 cards. Sorry the last video was so shaky. Depending on what time it is, when I turn this video off and get it uploaded, I'm going to be starting the Simon Says Stamps September kit. And now for the giveaway. I've been promising you guys in anticipation of when I got back from vacation. So here it is. I had this set of Arteza Real Brush Pens, 48. I had been using them for a while, love them, absolutely nothing wrong with them. But then I realized people were doing review videos and stuff, and this was after I had my markers for a little bit. And they're talking about how they can name what color they're using, and I was like, wait a minute. I don't have colors on my markers. How come I don't have colors on my markers, guys? So I wrote to Arteza, I emailed them, told them I had them, told them I had already done a review on it, that I love my markers, but it's, you know, was it a mistake in production because mine don't have names listed on them? And they wrote me back and said, no, we just started adding names. I told them, oh, I said because it's, you know, it's really difficult to use them with no name. You know, every time I want to use them, I have to use a scratch piece of paper to see what the color looks like. You know, there's no rhyme or reason. The color on the tip doesn't necessarily mean that's the color you're going to get when you put it down on paper. So they had emailed me back and told me, oh no, we just started doing this. Here you go. Here's a link to all the colors and their names. Guys, it was the back. They gave me a picture of this, okay, with the names on it. And I wrote them back and said, no offense, but looking at a picture of that is not going to tell me what color I'm using right now. I said, it is a pain in the butt for you to expect me to open up my email, open up the link with the picture in it, open up the picture, and try to compare these colors to what I'm actually using on hand to figure out my colors. You know, I said I would be more than happy to exchange these. Could I please have a set with names on them? Arteza was kind enough to send me another set, 48 markers, free of charge. Never asked for this set back. Told me it was on them, which I thought was very lovely because I love these markers. I want to get the next set up with the more markers and the more colors. And I figured there's nothing wrong with these guys. I used them, you know, probably 5 or 6 times. Why not do a giveaway? Why do I need 2 sets of markers? I don't. So here it is. You must be a subscriber. Ask me any question you want in the comment below of this video. And I'm gonna say that we're going to close it, what's today? Today is now technically Wednesday. We're gonna close it Saturday night, okay? So just ask me a question in the comments below of this video. Make sure you're a subscriber. And I will randomly pick a winner. No international winners. I have to put a lid on that because I just spent a fortune sending something else out. Maybe in the future, but not for this particular item. So you must live in the US, possibly Canada. I think because Canada is so close to me, it might not cost a lot to send anything, but we'll see. Just leave a comment below, guys. Please, if you like my videos, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. I would love to hear from you guys. I'd love to have you back to come and craft with me. And don't forget to hit that notification button so that you can hear about all the wonderful giveaways. Alright guys, I'm tired. I'm acting silly. I'm being silly. I don't know how to speak. So we're going to end this video. I hope you liked the 11 cards for the My Monthly Hero Kit for August 2018. And we will see you guys soon. Bye-bye.